Why is Eliud Kipchoge's sub-2-hour marathon not in the record books?
Hello and welcome to the show. Colourful conversations with Clergyman Pete and Businessman Mark. Yes, Eliud Kipchoge has become the first athlete to run a marathon in under 2 hours and beating the mark by 20 seconds. But remarkably, unfortunately, this will not be recognised as the official marathon world record because it was not in open competition and he used a team of rotating pacemakers. Well, I've got a very specific view on this, and I believe it should be recognised. Clergyman Pete, on the other hand, perhaps has a different view.
Who knows?
But would say, for as far as Eliud is concerned, there's one mistake that he did make, because a marathon goes on and on and on and on for many, but perhaps here's a consideration. Finally, the 2-hour marathon barrier is broken in a flicker, which makes every amateur runner feel much sicker. But the question for Eliud Kipchoge, the Kenyan kicker, why not smash the 1-hour mark if he'd only run quicker? Yes, well, there you go, Clergyman Pete. His record is magnificent and a human endeavour, but it's not going to be recognised as an official world record. Why not?
Well, Businessman Mark, the reason is that he wasn't running a marathon race, and the record that's recorded in the Guinness Book of Records, at any rate, and in the official records of the different organisations that record these things, including the British Athletics Association, they don't include that a non-race situation as being a record, and so that's why it isn't there. He wasn't in a race. He had assistance. It's interesting that Kipchoge said running under 2 hours is like being the first man to go to the moon. He says, but others, critics. Unnamed critics, but those quoted in a Telegraph article recently, say, well, that is reasonable if you say it's the first man to the moon who's taken gravity out of the equation because of him having this artificial support of fresh runners being able to lead him on, and of course them running in front of him. They're protecting him from the wind and from any and protecting him from the psychological problem of having no one in front of you. The two sides of it are taken away such that you can then run faster. Remember, he's a pretty fast marathon runner in a race. So what we see is that difference. Yes. And that's the argument anyway. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that I agree with that necessarily. That is the argument.
I am going to sort of give a case for Eliud, and that is that he is already the Olympic champion. He holds the official marathon world record. Now, that is 2 hours, 1 minute and 39 seconds. Now, he set that in Berlin in Germany in 2018. He only recently missed out, incidentally, in a competition by 25 seconds. And this was an attempt which was in the Italian Grand Prix in the circuit in Monza in 2017. So he's always been chipping away at this effort. Now, you mentioned about this point about the help that he had, but think of the achievement. In my opinion, you were saying that this wasn't about an official competition. I disagree. I'll tell you why. I think his competition was time. He was up against time, and there is nothing more competitive than what he had to achieve to break the 2-hour mark, bearing in mind that no one has ever done it before as a human endeavor. To me, that should go down as an official world record. And I know that you quite rightly point out that obviously he had 41 pace setters, basically, which is a lot. And as you say, a little bit like cyclists when they have, people to protect them from the elements, as you say. And he also had, as you know, a particular vehicle which sort of helped project some laser beams down on the ground to help his pace setting. But nevertheless, as a human endeavor, even with all that support, and bearing in mind that also the conditions weren't absolutely perfect for him, to break a 2-hour mark and not go down as an official world record, to me, I think that he's been shortchanged there. Here's my point. What if he, even with a silly, whimsical poem, what if he had broken the 1 hour record. I mean, is people never going to even recognise that?
Yeah. Well, my point here, my point of view is slightly different to yours, and I think we can reflect on the other ramifications on it, because it is such a great achievement. It's worth considering what it means. But first of all, I do think that they're right in not recording this as the fastest marathon race, but there are other things than races. You could say it's the fastest marathon time trial event. You simply need to have a different entry in the record books. And I think, this is my opinion, you see, I take it further than you. I think this is better. Personally, I'm not interested in races. I know many people are. I'm interested in how fast they go. And so, for me, the time trial is better. You say, what can a human achieve? And you put everything to help him, so he can get it. And so it was good that he had the help. Otherwise, you wouldn't know what he could achieve. If he hadn't had pacemakers, he wouldn't have known how fast he could go with pacemakers. And if you hadn't had that technology helping, you wouldn't have known. So I do think that he achieved something. I think that he's the record holder and should be seen as such. But forget about the races. I do like the races, but I'm not as interested as in this sort of endeavour against nature, against time, as you say.
Yeah.
It's like I, in the same way as I'd be interested in someone who's gone to the moon or climbed the world's highest mountain or gone down to the greatest depth in the sea, whatever it might be. This sort of endurance record, I'm interested in as well. Running that fast for that long is a great achievement. But just to take it to another level, though, or another level of discussion. Having said all that, there was something that I believe he didn't use, and that is he didn't use drugs.
Yeah.
Now, so if we say, now here's a question for you then, Molly, let's put this back the other way. I'll put a situation. What if he'd said, well, I want this to be the fastest possible time for a human being, so I'm going for that. So during this training period, I'll be using steroid drugs, I'll be using other different artificial ways of recovering during training, so that I can build up endurance quicker. And then on the day, I'll be taking a huge great injection of heroin and caffeine, or whatever. I don't know whether that would help, but whatever it is, he uses drugs, right? He uses. I mean, that's what I always take in the morning. But I mean, I'm just assuming.
I'm sure.
But that's just to get out of bed, though. But look, if he were using drugs, would that then have delegitimized it? Because you're saying that it's legitimate even with help. So with drug help, why are drugs different?
Well, I think that okay. So let's take the difference. I would never condone taking drugs for a number of reasons. One, for his own health, let alone that would certainly damage him long term. But more importantly, it would set a precedent, which I think is not going to really be encourageable for future athletes. I agree with you. As an experiment, it would possibly be interesting for many who are only interested in what a human could do. But ultimately, once you go that route, once you go that dangerous dark route by taking synthetics to help you, I would never encourage that. But coming back to the point here is that that he was doing it in the basis that this was a sponsored event. Your point. It was basically a time challenge, time trial challenge. He was trying to break a marker, and he was doing it based on a series of carefully constructed but natural training programs, which enabled him to plan this route, work out the right timing, because again, it wasn't too hot, it wasn't too cold, it was actually good running conditions, relatively so. It could have been slightly better, but anyway, he went for it. And to me, with this human endeavor, what is remarkable for me is some of the statistics that come from it. Yes. So you mentioned about where a human can go.
Yes. Well, before you before you get to that, I just want to close out the other thing about drugs that we're talking about, and then we'll go to that. I know that you have some interesting statistics to look at, but just to close out the thing about drugs, taking drugs, the reason that I do have a very specific reason why I think that that's wrong. And all the things that we talked about, the helps that he had, were all removing barriers to him achieving the fastest speed. But taking drugs it's adding something. It becomes something artificial. It's no longer a human doing it. It would be the equivalent to saying, well, wear comfortable shoes so that nothing, so you're not distracted. Or having, I don't know, motorized casters on the bottom of the shoes, which artificially makes you go faster. So that's why all the other things I described took barriers out the way to him achieving his best. But drugs were artificial enhancement. Anyway,
well, the irony is here, and I'm not a doctor, but I would probably even say that actually, ironically, they could hinder him.
Yeah, yes.
But let's close out that.
Sure, that's true.
Let's talk about his actual natural achievements. His average time per 100 meter was 17.202 seconds.
Yes.
His official average speed clocked at 13.16 miles per hour. That's 21.18 kilometers per hour.
Yep.
An extraordinary pacing of time.
Yes.
And what you then start to sort of recognize is, and I know that we were talking off air, but the thing that really not only just impressed me, the fact that he broke the record, but it was his demeanor afterwards that it looked like he'd gone out on a Sunday stroll.
Yes.
And I actually sort of thought, well, he could probably have run even faster.
Yeah.
But I want to sort of talk about history, because where can man go and women go? What can people how far can they go?
Can they run faster, is what you're saying?
Breaking barriers.
Yeah.
So Johnny Hayes, folks, that's the guy from the US in 1908. So Clergyman Pete in London, he set a world best marathon time. What was his time in 1908?
Was 1908 the first?
Well, it's certainly a selection.
Oh, right. So it wasn't quite the first.
I'm just picking markers out.
Okay, so 1908. I would say he'd be significantly slower. So just as I don't know and haven't looked at this, because we talked about it off air, I wasn't going to look it up. So I would say about 3 hours. I'm just adding an hour on, though.
Well, he actually did break the 3 hour mark. It was 2 hours, 55 minutes, and 18.4 seconds.
Well, okay, I wasn't that far off by just adding an hour, but
that would be deemed to be a good amateur run today.
Yep.
So I'm going to bring it up slightly closer to time, but let's move on a little bit.
Yeah.
So let's take Haile Gebrselassie.
Oh yes,
Ethiopian.
Yes, I know of him. Yep.
Well-known athlete. 2008 in Berlin.
2008, 11 years ago. So 11 years ago. Well, what I'm going to do now, this may be wrong, but I know that the women's time, the women's record currently is 2 hours 20. So I'm going to say 11 years ago, he was a little bit quicker than the current women's time. I'm going to say 2 hours 15.
No. Well, actually, he was very close to the marker, and that was 2 hours, 3 minutes, and 59 seconds. So what's happening is that we're seeing
2 hours 3. Did you say?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
3 seconds and 50. 2 hours, 3 minutes, 59 seconds, which is a very good, fast-paced time.
Yeah.
And he did it in, and this is the interesting thing is, slightly later in that year, he did it in 2 hours in Berlin. Ironically,
yes,
he did it again in 2018, where Eliud, this is Kipchoge, the guy we're talking about, who's now broken it. He just missed out, as we said, in 2 hours, 1 minute and 39 seconds. So my question now is, what do you think that he could do? How fast
can he go
in his career? He's going to go into the Olympic Games next year, almost certainly, as a strong favourite, dare I say.
I would have thought so.
In your opinion, let's have bold predictions, because we like this. So whether it be Eliud Kipchoge or anyone else that you may care to mention, where do you think in our lifetime, let's take in the next 50 years, how far do you think we can go by breaking that barrier?
Well, if we're saying that what he
with no drugs,
if we're saying with no drugs, then it doesn't seem possible that you could go that much faster. However, he wasn't racing to the line, as you were pointing out.
Right.
In fact, his pacemakers had gone away, so to give him the limelight, quite rightly, I think, running up to it. But he was waving to people; he wasn't really running through the line. So I would say I think there's a few seconds in that, but I don't think there's a few minutes in it. So I think the next big thing is to go, under 1 hour 59, isn't it?
Of course. Yes.
Yeah, so to go under the next minute thing. So I would say even, this is my prediction, even 50 years' time, they're still going to be 1:58.
No, I'm going to be bold. I think it will break the 1 hour 50 minute mark in 50 years' time.
Do you think? Well, why not say the 1 hour? Well, why?
Well, I did suggest that at the beginning.
I don't know. You might be right. I mean, I don't see what else they can do, but there may be something else that they can do. You're right. There may be something they can do with the surface of the road.
Surface of the road, the shoes that he wears, maybe there's something else in his training program, etc. Maybe there are
Now, I've got another question.
Can eat.
Here's a question that morally is taking on board superhero movies, which we know, of course, are real science in them. And there's a superhero called Captain America in the Marvel cinematic universe, and he is given some super soldier serum which enables him to run faster, but he doesn't take drugs. He just had a one-off super soldier serum injection or something. Anyway, now would he be eligible to take part in this, or is a superhero is not allowed? That's what I'm saying.
Well, yeah.
You don't have to answer that, but the thing is, would there be something that's not actually drugs, but there's some sort of treatment they can give which produces a sort of superhuman person who can run it in an hour, maybe in the next 50 years?
Yeah, well, interestingly enough, Kipchoge's coach, Patrick Sang, has been obviously giving praise for his strategy here, and said everything went perfectly right in his attempt, and obviously it did. And as far as he's concerned, for the sport, it is a challenge to other young athletes that they can perform better than they think. For humanity, it shows that you can move to another level. And as far as he's concerned, then, in conclusion, history has been made. Yes. It's unbelievable. And I think it's been fantastic. And I hope that perhaps people do, as you say, reclassify these and actually make it an official world record. And that's what I think that should be done in this matter.
Yeah, and I just want to say a little comment about the man. Kipchoge is very well regarded. All the all the commentators, people asked about him, are all pleased that he did this. Because he's admired, he has good character, he's polite and nice, and all these things. So people were very pleased that it's been done, but that he's done it. And I just wanted to also comment on his faith. He's a Christian, and he made some interesting comments recently when he was talking about things that he'd been reading, and he was saying that he was been reading some motivational books, and that that included Shoe Dog, which is by Phil Knight, who one of the founders of Nike, the sportswear manufacturers. And what he said was, this is an encouraging book, and he went on to say, as a Christian, I believe that whatever investments I accumulate must trickle down to at least my grandchildren. So he was talking about, as a Christian, being involved in business and being involved in enterprise, and of course being involved in running, doing the best you can. And I think that's a real lesson to us. Mark and Pete, we're a Christian show, although we look at all different religions, different cultures and ethnicities, but we're very interested in how Christianity informs people's beliefs and attitudes. And Kipchoge is a believing Christian, so I just sort of throw that into the mix as an interesting part of his character.
Yes, indeed. Well, listeners, what do you think? I mean, as far as Patrick Sang, his coach, is concerned, I think I'll end on this point. He has inspired, that's Kipchoge, all of us, and shown that we can stretch the limits in our life. Well, why not let us know what you think about this achievement, and do you think his efforts should be recognised in other ways? Log on to markandpete.com, and we'd love to hear from you. So, join us again for more milestone-breaking conversations with Clergyman Pete and Businessman Mark.